Which shotgun shell should you use? It's likely safe to say that shotguns are the most adaptable form of firearm, hunting both large and small games, wing shooting, clay games such as trap, skeet, or sporting clays, tactical use, defense, and multi-gun are all possible applications for these firearms. The availability of such a wide variety of ammunition for shotguns is one of the many factors that contribute to the versatile nature of these firearms. Let's go over the fundamental categories of shotgun ammunition, shall we? The primary varieties of shotgun shells. Assume for the moment that we overlook specialty rounds such as less lethal, which are employed for riot control, or the plethora of exotic or new rounds such as the flame-throwing dragon's breath, flechettes, or small steel darts, ball and chain or bolo rounds, and the list continues. If this is the case, then almost all shotgun ammunition can be placed into one of three categories: birdshot, buckshot, or slugs. At the bigger end of the spectrum, the FF shot measures 0.23 inches in diameter, while at the smaller end of the spectrum, the number 12 shot measures 0.05 inches. A birdshot shot shell consists of an exterior hull made of plastic, which is often packed with tiny metal pellets of varying sizes. The majority of frequently available birdshot cartridges in the United States range from size T, each pellet having a diameter of approximately 0.20 inches, to BBB, 0.19, BB, 0.18 inches, and B, 0.17 inches, and then progressively smaller pellets numbered 1 through 9, with number 9 shot pellets measuring 0.08 inches in diameter. Size T birdshot cartridges have the largest pellets available. Each pellet measures approximately 0.20 inches in diameter. If you want to get the most out of your shot shells, you should always fire them from a smooth bore barrel that does not have any rifling in it. When the shot is fired through a rifled bore, a spin is imparted on the shot cloud, which causes the shot to spread much more quickly than it should and forms a ring-shaped pattern with big open gaps in the middle, which renders the shot ineffectual. Only slugs are designed to work properly in shotgun barrels that have been rifled. The shot size that is utilized in birdshot shot shells is determined by a variety of criteria, including what you are hunting or which targets you are shooting at, the desired effect, the distance to the targets, and other aspects of the situation. However, if you are hunting larger wild pheasants later in the season when their feather coats are denser and you want greater penetration for an ethical kill, you could try using a number 5 bullet instead. When hunting larger ducks and geese, for which steel shot is required in most regions, you may choose BB, BBB, or even T-shot to get the same amount of effective penetration with lighter steel shot. In a buckshot cartridge, the pellets are substantially larger and there are fewer of them than in a birdshot cartridge. The construction of the two types of cartridges is very similar. In contrast, a typical load of double-aught buckshot may only include 8 or 9 lead balls, measuring 0.33 inches in diameter, yet a shot shell of number 8 birdshot will typically contain hundreds of very small lead pellets. Buckshot got its name from the fact that it was originally intended for hunting larger wildlife, like deer or buck, but it is also quite effective when used as a defensive or tactical cartridge. Watch this video to learn important information regarding buckshot. The most common sizes of buckshot in the United States vary from number 4 buckshot, which has a diameter of 0.24 inches, all the way up to 0 buckshot, which has a diameter of 0.32 inches, double-aught buckshot, which has a diameter of 0.33 inches, and triple-aught, which has a diameter of 0.36 inches for each pellet. Slug cartridges. Instead of small round lead pellets, slug cartridges include a single massive metal bullet inserted in a plastic hull. These cartridges are often employed for hunting large game or for self-defense, because the bullet follows a path very similar to that of a bullet fired from a rifle or handgun and can remain harmful for hundreds of yards after it has traveled. Shooting at an aerial target with a slug is something you should never do. There are two popular types of slugs that may be purchased: rifled or Foster type slugs, which are made of soft lead and have angled riflings molded into the sides to properly swage down through a shotgun choke, and standard slugs, which do not have riflings. Sabot slug cartridges feature a projectile with a smaller diameter that is housed within a plastic housing or sabot that separates from the slug after the slug has exited the barrel. Typically, the projectile will have a hollow point. This makes it possible for sabot slugs to be fired via rifled shotgun barrels, and the resulting accuracy can be rather impressive. When hunting large game, deer hunters in certain states are compelled to make use of shotguns rather than the customary rifles that are permitted in such jurisdictions. jurisdictions, particularly in areas with a higher population density. Always ensure that you are using the correct gauge. There is a wide variety of gauges and calibers to choose from when it comes to shotguns. The 12 gauge is the most frequent gauge used in North American construction. The figure that corresponds to the gauge indicates the number of pure lead balls with a bore diameter that weighs 1 pound in total. Isn't it clear cut? Although this is not actually the case, shotgun calibers continue to be referred to in this manner. Because it requires 20 lead balls the size of the bore to weigh 1 pound, a 20 gauge has a smaller bore diameter and smaller shells than a 12 gauge does, because a 12 gauge only needs 12. A 28 gauge is, of course, even more diminutive than that. The .410 bore, which is the most frequent and smallest shotgun caliber, is the only exception to this rule. The .410 does away with the gauge naming system and gets its name from the fact that its bore has a diameter of .410 inches, which is approximately equivalent to 67 12 gauge. Therefore, it is inaccurate to refer to a shotgun with a .410 bore barrel as a 410 gauge. It is imperative that you check that the gauge of your ammunition is compatible with the gauge of your handgun at all times. For instance, if you have a shotgun that is a 12 gauge, you are required to use ammunition that is also a 12 gauge. If you have a shotgun that takes 20 gauge ammunition, then you should use that kind of ammunition. This may appear to be self-evident to some. However, it is feasible to fit a shell with a smaller gauge into the chamber of a gun with a bigger gauge. The difficulty is that the shell will typically slide partway down the barrel, and it has the ability to obstruct the barrel, which can lead to a precarious and even potentially fatal situation. It is imperative that you always use the appropriate ammo for your rifle, just as it is with any other type of handgun. Determine the appropriate length for your shell. There is a range of lengths available for shotgun shells, generally speaking. The longer the shell, the more powder and shot it will hold. All gauges of modern shotguns have a chamber size of 2 3/4 inches, which is the typical chamber size for modern shotguns. Some have chambers measuring 3 inches, while others, like those seen in specialized hunting shotguns, measure 3/12 inches. There are 3 different lengths of shells that are commonly used: shells that are standard and measure 2 3/4 inches in length, magnum rounds that are 7.5 centimeters in length, and super magnum ammunition with a length of 3.5 inches. Note that the length of the cartridge that is listed refers to the length of the chamber, or the length of the cartridge hull after it has been fired. In other words, the length of a cartridge that measures 3 inches will be somewhat less than 3 inches after it has been fired. After each shot is fired, the hull opens up to release the shot, and its circumference is roughly 3 inches. When loading your shotgun, you should always use a shell that is either the same length as the chamber or one that is shorter. If the chamber of your cannon measures 3 inches, you are free to use any rounds that are either 3 inches or 2 3/4 inches in length. That's all for the video. We will be right back with more such videos. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching!